Well, good morning. How are you this beautiful Tuesday morning? My name's Christine, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this Google Digital Garage training session, which is all about writing for social media. So I say my name's Christine, and I've been part of Google's Digital Garage right since pretty much the very beginning back in 2015. And in that time, we have seen so many changes. So you may be joining us today just to keep a track on what is going on. And that's great. You might be at the beginning of your journey. Social media is a really funny one. There always seems to be something new to learn. So maybe you've been doing this a while. If you have, we're going to love to hear your experiences too as we go through. So what else do you need to know? Well, we're delighted to be partnering today with our lovely friends over at Wenta. Wenta are a fabulous organisation. I can see Daryl's already popped a link through. If you don't know who Wenta are, and jump over and check out everything they're up to. But otherwise, we welcome everyone that Wenta have invited to join us today. Alongside me today, I have our lovely moderator, Darren. Darren is one of our Google Digital Garage coaches as well. And he's going to be interacting with you. He's going to be answering some of your questions as we go through. What you're going to need to do is pop in and say hi to him first. I can see that we've got people jumping in and saying hi already. So hi to Rahul, to Hamad, to Chihar, and to Iwona. To do so, you're going to need to be signed in to a YouTube account, which I can see that some of you already are. So pop up to the right-hand side, sign up or sign into YouTube. That will give you access to the chat. The chat is great for, obviously, feeling part of today's event, but what really makes our broadcasts that bit more special is when we can actually tailor them to the needs of the people around. So do, as I say, jump on in and maybe share, let us know, not just who you are, but why you joined today. Do you have a business? What's your business idea? What are you trying to achieve, especially around your social media? And as I say, we've got Daryl in the chat there. You can identify him. He's got a little blue spanner next to his name, and he will be able to help you out as we go. He's going to, as I say, be dropping in some useful links for you there as well. Strongly recommend that you watch from start to end with us. That way you do get to enjoy the chat facility, ask your questions, give me some feedback. Let's hear your answers to the questions I ask. But you can rewatch this. So we'll keep this live till about lunchtime tomorrow. You'll be able to use the link you used to get here in the first place and rewatch the session. One of the beauties of broadcasting on YouTube Live, to be honest. And yeah, so feel free, fire away with your questions as you go. We are going to pause throughout the session. So we'll take a couple of pauses. Darryl will send me over some of the questions that he thinks it would be great for the whole group to hear the answer to. So do get those in early. We will only be able to answer questions that are quite closely tied to writing for social media, though. So do be sure to bear that in mind when you are asking. And on that matter, we are running other Google Digital Garage virtual training. So this is part of our broader offering of courses. Head to the website down below. You'll be able to see what else we have coming up. You'll be able to see different dates, different subjects, and do keep checking back because that, that really does change and update. And as we've said, everything's always changing in this world. So it's absolutely worth sticking around. Okay. I think that's pretty much all the housekeeping sorted. So let's jump on in and think about what we're going to think about today. So we're talking about social media, but we're not necessarily going to be focusing on all the different platforms because, to be honest, and there isn't one best platform to use. It's a whole part of your strategy will be choosing the right platforms for your audience. We cover a little bit more about that in our social media strategy session. But I want you to be thinking a little bit higher than individual day-to-day individual posts or, what picture do I put up on which platform? I want you really to be thinking about the story you want to tell. really deeply thinking about who you are, what you stand for, how you want to communicate with the audiences you're trying to reach. So we'll start by doing a little bit of work on your brand. So be thinking about how you go about defining a brand. We'll think about the tone of voice you'll use. We'll think about all the different ways you could communicate that story of yours. Then we'll look at some golden rules, I guess, some strategies you can employ, some ways you can go about approaching the content that you create for social media. And then we've got a couple of little, just there again, probably more along the golden rules line of the sorts of tools you could use. I will say, especially in that toolkit, there are new tools being introduced to the market all the time. By the time we've created a slide and put it up onto a broadcast, another 15 new tools will have arrived. So we're not going to be necessarily recommending a specific platform or application, but I'm going to be talking about the sorts of things you want to be thinking about when you are picking those tools. One of the other things I just wanted to highlight for you, and that is a special offer for if you are available, if you are based here in the UK, and if you work for a small business or for a charity, then we do have Google Mentoring available. When I say small business, it can be a tiny business. It could still be just that germ of that business idea that you've got your kitchen table business, right the way through to, maybe you're employing a few people and you want to grow. Wherever you're up to, whatever you want to do, you can sign up for a free one-to-one mentoring session from Google. As I say, the sessions are completely free. And what happens is you'll be paired with a mentor who will spend an hour with you one-to-one, just talking through. We won't do anything for you. But if you get to a point after today's session and you think, that's what I want to do, I'm not quite sure what to do next, then that mentoring session might be able to help them. So sign up, book a session at g.co/UK mentoring. Right then, so let's have a think about defining that brand. I'm just going to check. I've been told that the captions aren't working. Sorry, Dal, they are working at this end, so I don't actually know how to fix them anymore. Apologies if you were hoping for captions today. We'll see what we can do. We'll work behind the scenes to see if we can make that happen. But just so you know, Dal, they are working from this side. Good. All right, then, let's think about your brand. What's a brand? Now, I'm an old school marketeer. I've been dealing in marketing since way before all of this digital nonsense came about. And if you think of your organization's culture as what you think about yourself, how you work internally, that can very much influence how you're thought of externally, but nobody knows what to think of you externally outside your company, outside that internal culture, unless you tell them. Okay, so when you're looking at your brand isn't just some logos or some color schemes. Brand is really fundamentally a part of who you are and what you tell the outside world. Okay, so bearing that in mind, if we are using to, thinking about the your company as a brand, your business as a brand, what's your brand's tone of voice? Okay, so pop in the chat if you want to, if you can think of some things. The tone of voice, how might you describe that? How might you think about it? Okay, because I would think about it if the brand is what the people think about you, well, the tone of voice that we use in every single thing we do when we communicate, everything we do externally, plants a seed in people's minds. Brand's a really funny thing. A brand doesn't actually exist except in other people's minds. So the tone of voice, how do we describe ourselves? What do we say? There are certain things when you're working on this that you just know about yourself, your business. But it's really key to start thinking when you're building a brand that nobody else outside your company has heard of it. All right, so a brand tone of voice is maybe if start to think of the way that your brand would speak, the way your brand would behave. And it's a company, right? Or a product or a service. So brilliant. We've got some great things there. So from Charlie, the words we use. Yeah, the words you choose to use can absolutely. Yell's saying that they're helpful and professional. That's coming into something I'm going to ask you in a second, so bear that in mind. So your tone of voice, the words you use, how you speak, how you convey your messages, really. And bear in mind, it's everything you do. And we'll keep talking about that as we go through. Okay. So if we want to do a little bit of work to help those people who haven't thought about this before necessarily, I want to get you to start thinking about your brand's tone of voice. Okay, so imagine the way your brand or business would speak if that brand was a person. Because remember, social media, it's about being sociable. So we can really start to embody our brands. But it's really important, actually, that we do so in a consistent way, and do so in a way that reinforces rather than jars with our audience. So the personality, the tone of voice you use should reflect the personality that you want to portray. So we can think about that. So let's think about personalities for people. If you were a celebrity, which I'm guessing you're joining me today, you're not. If you think about the way people, famous people, influencers, and the celebrities out in the world portray themselves on social media, George Clooney comes across on social media and on any kind of interaction as kind of sophisticated, laid back, and smooth. I'm sure he has his grumpy days. I'm sure he has days when his hair isn't perfect, but those things are never shown on to the outside world. Okay, that face that he's portraying, Beyonce, strong, empowered, alluring. She probably has days when she just wants to keep her hair in curls and go back to bed with a cup of tea. But we never see those things. So the personality, the business brand's personality is showing out to the world. I'm not saying that these people are going to represent your brand. I want you to think about, for your brand, if you had to sum that brand up, what kinds of words would you use? What would be the face that you would want to present to the world? I'm not going to lie, my brand personality would probably involve a nice cup of tea. I'm from the north, that's what we do, And that might be the way I wanted to be. I wanted to be kind of down to earth and friendly and approachable, if that was my brand on social media. So think about you. And I can see for some tones of voice here, we've got Isabella wants to be professional, confident, yet approachable. Beth, knowledgeable and friendly. These are great terms. These are the sorts of things that when we start to define our own personalities, our own brands, tones of voice, we can really start to think about embodying them every day, being that brand, being consistent. Okay. Now, as I say, I can see that lots of you have come across already thinking about the way you want to communicate, the way you want to think. But for those of you who maybe haven't come up with this, or for those of you who maybe want to try and refine this a little bit, I'm going to show you a 4-step process that we use to get ourselves from, I've no idea what you're talking about, to Christine, to this is our tone of voice. Okay, so 4 steps we're going to think about. First step are your brand values. What do you stand for? Who are you? Then really importantly, and I did see a few, Joseph mentioned customer, which is really good, and Rishab, target audience. So starting to think about the people you're trying to reach. Okay, so we'll think about those users and we'll come up with what we call a pen portrait for them. Then we'll think about, okay, to embody my values, to reach these people, this is how I'm going to speak. Then the 4th step is actually to really help you. Hopefully you'll be really enthused about this by the end of today. But this is going to help you, in through time. It's really important because if you think, some of you were able to pull off the top of your head who you want your brand to be and how you want it to be communicated. It may be that that's because actually at the moment your business is quite small. You are your brand and your brand is you, or you're very deeply involved. Is everybody in the company as deeply involved? Does everybody feel the same way about the branding? In order for this to be sustainable, long-term, of power to your brand, what you want is that no matter who speaks on your behalf, they consistently embody those values. Okay, so that's why we need to go in and a little dig at just that little bit deeper, get it down on paper so it's clearly communicated. And if there are more people in the company, it's really worth speaking to them when you're doing this development work. Because I say, if your culture is what you think about yourselves, that's reflected externally as a brand. That culture internally really does help shape what we put out into the world. It's hard to be someone you're not for very long. Okay, so let's pull it right back. Start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. I want you to think about your company. What do you stand for? All right, what are your values? And as I said, we've got some great ones that have been starting to come through here. Warm and caring. Do you have great customer service? Do you have a phenomenal atmosphere? Do you want to be very professional? Who are you rather? How we appear will come along a little bit different. So don't just think about facts of what you do. I want you to think about how you go around, how about your business. I met a lovely business just last week, who, what they want to do, they want to be seen as incredibly trustworthy and ethical in the business that they're in. And they will turn away work if it doesn't fit with their values. So they had a really strong core identity. This is what we do and don't do. All right, so think about it. Think about why you do what you do and why you do it in the way that you do it. All right. So here we've got a couple of examples. All right. So these are a couple of example businesses that these have been pulled together from various conversations that people have had. So let's have a think about Nico's Pizzeria. All right. So Nico's, their brand values, who they are as a company, they want to make quality pizza and they want to use those fresh ingredients. Okay. They want to provide excellent customer service and they want to be fast and reliable for home delivery or takeaway. So a few things here. You can't just write these things on a piece of paper. For this to actually be who you are, you can't say, oh, we make quality pizza, and then pop to the wholesalers and bulk buy the cheapest pizza base you can find. Just make it with any old flour that's sitting out the back. You have to, for this to be genuine, for this to be a real thing, you have to embody these values. All right. So Nico's make quality pizza and they use fresh ingredients. They provide excellent customer service and they have fast and reliable. There again, if they want to be known as fast and reliable, you have to be able to deliver on these things. If you can't deliver on the things that you say you want to, then that's a whole other piece of work. That comes outside the remit of your social media. So when you are doing this, you have to be super honest with yourself. What is it that you actually can provide? Okay. Then we've got Hathaway Legal, our second case study business. Now, Hathaway Legal, very different business, small business, local firm of solicitors. All right. Think about the marketplace that both of these businesses operate in. They are a small business trying to carve out a piece within a very competitive market. So here we've got Hathaway. Hathaway are a small legal firm, and their values, they want to make sure that they dedicate the highest level of diligence to each case. They want to provide a quick response to their clients and only hire those top lawyers. So they want to have, now to do those things, there again, to have top lawyers from the prestigious institutions, they have to design their recruitment to attract those people and retain those people. As I say, that's a far, but you know, You can't just make that as a statement. For this to truly embody your brand, you have to really deeply think about not just what you want to do, but what you actually deliver. All right. So you can give this a go. And if you have thought about these things before, maybe deeply think about the deeper thinking. If will take a few days, maybe this might be a point, jot down, we're 19 minutes into the broadcast. Maybe this is where you want to come back and take a look, and re-watch the video from this point. Think about it, reflect upon it, what your brand actually stands for, okay? And try and be as honest as possible, right? So once you've done that, and a rule of 3 is a good rule to have. Try and come up with 3 things that you do embody, you can embody, and you want to portray, all right? So the next stage is to think about the audience you're going for. All right. So in marketing, we quite often we'll start to think about audiences. We'll start to think about segmenting an audience. This is terms you may have heard of. What we're trying to do is try to realistically, based on data where we can, paint a vivid picture of the person that we are trying to reach, the person we are writing for. Social media is a social communication tool. It's a personal communication tool. We don't want to sound like a big corporation parroting out our messages. Especially as a small business, we probably want to embody the wonderful things that make a small business such a good entity to deal with. So it's quite a long task. I'll take you through the steps to do it. You're not going to be able to do it in the 5 minutes we spend on it today, but I want you to really start thinking about who the actual human beings you are trying to reach are, all right? Think about your audience. The more you know about your audience, the better you'll be able to tailor not just your social media, but every communication you make. Not just your communications, but the products and services you devise. Okay, so come up with as much detail, but don't just make it up. Try and go from it. Experience is good, data is even better. If you want to find out how to do these sorts of things and back these things up with data, join us for our webinar on getting started with data and analytics, because that one really will help you with this. And when I sit down with a business, the first thing, if say I'm doing a one-to-one, the first thing I will ask them is, who are you trying to reach? And so many businesses say everyone can buy my product. And whilst that might be true, it's actually fairly unlikely that everyone would. There are needs, there are basic human needs. Drink, to have water, to have some food and drink. But within food and drink, we have really segmented markets. The same drink is not going to appeal to everybody. So those big companies have already worked out that you need to focus in and target a certain set of people. So thinking about that content means that we'll really start to focus in. And the best thing about targeting in, focusing in on an audience, is actually that we start to have to do a little bit less. We're not trying to meet everybody's needs. We're trying to focus in on those people most likely to buy our products. All right. So we need to dig a little bit deeper than just everyone. Everyone needs to drink something someday, so they're all going to buy my product. It's probably not going to happen. So let's think of it for our 2 businesses. Okay. So I've already spoken a little bit about Nico's. Nico's are a family pizzeria, an independent pizzeria. They are operating, we can think the competition in their market. And thinking about where you sit in the market in terms of competition is really important. With Nico's, they are competing against the big, well-known pizza delivery places. We all know those ones. There's one on every high street. They're also competing against other pizzerias locally. They're also competing against other convenient food options, which could be, Chinese food, Indian food, other kinds of food you can get delivered. can also be supermarket food. Why would somebody ordering a pizza if they were organised enough to have pizza in the fridge or freezer they bought earlier, or they've made themselves? So these are all the different competitors that Nico's are up against. But Nico have noticed a pattern. Okay. So Nico's have noticed that quite a lot of the customers who come into them and come back time and time again are young single professionals. Okay. So they came up with Simon. All right. So Simon is a young single professional. He's in his late 20s. And from talking to people who came in, pizzerias and service businesses are great businesses to be in for this kind of work, because actually we meet those people every single day, and they start to put them into, I like to think of them putting them in a little bucket. Okay, so Simon, young single, works full time, he works in advertising, lives in Brighton, which is going to be really important if that's where Nico's is. He's got his busy work and social life. Whoops, that went backwards. Big appetite for adventure, a keen athlete, enjoys playing football, goes to his bar with his mates to watch televised sporting example. We start to think about not just Simon, but what's going on in Simon's life. And not just in relation to buying pizza. When we see, right, so single, professional, busy, running about here, there and everywhere. Okay, maybe a bit disorganized, maybe not always got the food he wants in his freezer. Great. This is somebody who's going to want our pizza, but we're not going for the student type, maybe, because maybe our pizza, because it's quality, needs an audience which is a bit more discerning, prepared to pay that little bit more, or choose us because of some of the things we can say about it. All right. Hathaway have noticed a trend as well. So Hathaway are a small competitor in a huge field, massive legal firms here, there, and everywhere, great big resources. But maybe they are intimidating, those big firms. Some people don't feel that they belong there. Okay, so they meet Sally. Sally's in her early 30s. She's single, buying a first-time buyer for an apartment in Leeds city centre. It's a new apartment. There are rules around questions that will come up about leaseholds and new apartments and all of these sorts of things. So we know why Sally might actually need us. Because there are lots of people out there who like reading the newspaper, drinking coffee, who are tech fanatics, likes grammar, likes degrees, has a degree. So there's the situation they're in, as well as the kind of fundamental core to their elements. When we start to pull these things together, we really start to build up a picture of the kinds of people who we might wish to communicate with. Okay, so the kinds of things we're thinking about, who are they? Male, female? How old are they? Rough buckets of age, doesn't have to be a particular age. Where they live, sometimes really important for a geographical spread. But more than that, what are they interested in? What do they do? What jobs do they have? Where are they married? Are they single? Do they have kids? All of these things change, much more than just the money they earn, the way they spend it. The things that are important to them. For somebody to spend money with you, you have to convince them that it's a good thing to spend money on. Whether they can free up the resources to pay for it is going to depend on what's important to them. So what do they care about? What are their values? Some people, when we think about about Hathaway Legal, more than happy to walk into a big shiny solicitor and say, I know I'm only a small conveyancer, but this is what I want. Whereas others will feel a lot more comfortable walking into a more friendly firm. Maybe that's not so intimidating. Okay, so how can we use that to our advantage? If you're working B2B, this still works. You want to think, when you're working in B2B, think of your decision-making unit. Who are all the people who go to making that decision? What job titles do they have? What industries do they work in? Some will hold the budget. You need to convince them on the maths of it. But the people on the shop floor doing the job, maybe they need to be convinced in a different way. The people who spec the products in, the people who have the problems that your product fixes. Map that out and really start to think about the different user journeys that you're going to have. Okay. With the data available, with learning about things, we can just read a lot of social media to uncover problems that these people have. Okay. So start to think about the kinds of people who are doing that as we go. All right. So personality next. How we speak. Remember we were thinking about those 3 celebrities and we were saying, you know, they encompass, everything they do is encompassed by a few words. Are they strong, powerful, sophisticated, laid back? All right. Let's try this for your business if you haven't done this already. So if you have done this already, you can pop these out. I want you to pick somewhere between 3 and 5 adjectives, some descriptive words that are going to form the basis of everything you do. And those words have to be the sorts of things that not only can you embody, but are going to appeal to your pen portrait people. All right. So here we've got Nico's. In order to stand out to the Simons of this world, they wanted to embody charm, authenticity, and family. So when they looked at, they were making quality ingredients, they were warm and welcoming, they were fast and efficient and friendly. That all comes together with charm, authenticity, and family. That's how they want to portray themselves. That's what they want their brand to say to the world. Okay? Hathaway. They're powerful, they're efficient, and they're experienced. If you're going through your first flat purchase, you need somebody who feels like they've done this before, you know, for whom they're going to do it efficiently. You're not going to have extra headaches because you've got all the other headaches of the house buying process. They're experienced, they're powerful. You're safe in their hands. They're going to get this done for you. That's what they want to be encompassing in everything they say and do. All right. So for yours, what's your what are your 3 words for your business? All right. Oh, quite a few of yours have, oh, sorry, they've disappeared. Apologies. I know you had put loads in, basically. Let's have a look. Here we are. Yes, so remember we had Beth, knowledgeable and friendly, professional, confident, approachable. All of those words that you popped in before, what are those ones that you want to do? Brilliant. Okie dokie. So have a think about that for you, for your business. Because our final step is to make it so you don't have to think about this too much. All right. So we've got to think about some guidelines. So whether this is in 3 months' time, you need to make sure you've kept on track because this session will fade from the memory. Whether you want to bring on board new members of staff and make sure they all work consistently. All right. So a little guidebook of the vocabulary you're going to use. So how are you going to say hello? How are you going to sign things off? And remember, when you're choosing those words, you're trying to embody the personality, the brand. So both Nico's and Hathaway have done this. So when they say hello, lots of ways Nico's could say hello. They could say ciao, they could say hi, they could say hello. They want to say welcome. Remember, they want to be warm and friendly and family and authentic. They want to welcome people. When they describe what they do, they really want to emphasize the word fresh as often and as naturally, but as reinforceably as possible. They want to talk about, their food being appetizing. They want to talk about enjoyment. They don't want to talk about customers. They want to talk about patrons and family and friends. They don't want to say you're going to eat something, you're going to enjoy something here. Okay, so think about the words that fit with your tone of voice that you are going to use when you are writing your posts. Hathaway Legal, I can see it now. It's not just about what they put on social media. It's about the rich, creamy paper that they use when they send out their letters to you. It's about the quality of envelope, the fact that they send things first class rather than second class. Embodying this idea of quality. So they're never going to say best wishes or cheers at the end of a post or an email or what have you. They're going to say kind regards. It's not going to be great it's not going to be fab. It might be great, but something will be excellent. They're embodying that. And they will say thank you rather than thanks or tar or cheers. So it's all of that language that we're using. Okay. So I recommend that you take some time Think about how you can craft your tone of voice. And this isn't a one-time task. This isn't something that you do once. This is something that, as you learn, as you try things, you're going to naturally get a feel for what works, what doesn't, what jars, what feels seamless. Add those into your lexicon, add those into the dictionary that you're making for yourself, and incorporate them. There are no right and wrong answers to this or any of these marketing tasks that we set ourselves. It's all about learning what works best for you, for your business, for your brand. It might feel nitpicky, it might feel like little things, but actually consistency on the very small points is really important when it comes to building a brand, because, it's not just about what we say, it's about how we behave and how consistently we behave time and time and time again. It's incredibly important when you're trying to portray those messages. All righty, let's jump in. I'll just check in with Daryl and see what's been going on with questions. Okay, so we've got some questions about particular posts and stories which maybe don't fit so much. Okay. I can see we've got some questions. I think what I'm getting here is half a conversation. So if you've got any questions about the content, about how to build that portrait, do feel free to ask those. I've got one from Almas who's saying, should you write your first post about your journey, your story? It's a really interesting one. I think it could be key to telling your story. But there's a wonderful phrase that comes in, and we might come into it. It's WIFM. What's in it for me? Whenever you're talking on socials, whenever you're talking on branding, it's not so much about I want to say, it's about what the audience needs to hear, what you want the audience to receive. So talking too much about yourself, and we get into this in a little bit with a bit of a content mix, is going to be, is probably going to be a good way to do it. So let's talk about that as we go through. So how to go about writing for social media. We've got some guiding principles here to help you. Right. Struggling with brevity. If I would have written a shorter letter, but I just did not have the time. If I'd had longer, I would have written shorter. What that means is sometimes when we express ourselves, we write down there again everything we want to say. And if we are really deep into the subject, if we are very knowledgeable, if we want to tell them everything all at once because we're so excited about it, we actually end up with word soup. We end up with lots and lots of words, and we make it really difficult for that person we are trying to reach to understand what we're going to say. One of the hardest things to do when you are writing, any kind of writing for communication, is to write short enough to be understood. It's really actually, this has been helped in some ways by social media and having restricted character counts, because people are getting more switched on to the fact that we have to get our message across in fewer characters. That doesn't mean just swapping the and out for a little ampersand so it gets under that limit. It's hard to fit in character counts, but it's much harder to still communicate clearly when you're trying to write short. Okay, but why is this really important? So 8 seconds. Human attention span, we've known for a while, is quite short. We need, the more social media, the more instant video we consume, the shorter our attention spans seem to be getting. I like to think that we basically have the time it takes, where's my phone, for our thumb to scroll from the bottom to the top of that screen. All right, we need to work harder to catch the attention. If we can catch the attention, then pique that interest, then people are willing to invest more time. So it's how we go about front loading our content so it's of interest to the right people. Okay, so we need to write for the goldfish, but bear in mind we are writing for those people, that persona who is already interested in us. So first thing, assume our reader will only read the first few words of our posts, of our sentences. Okay. And then they're going to decide whether they carry on reading or not. So sometimes we might have a long sentence with the key at the end. When in traditional writing, we've told our stories starting at the beginning and working our way through to the end. Now you see it when people post trailers for TV, as well as videos, as well as posts. The action happens at the beginning to grab the attention, and then it goes back and tells the story. Because if we don't get the attention with the big car chase or the big fiery explosion, the moment of key impact, somebody crying, oh, well, that's going to draw me in. Whereas actually that doesn't happen until 3/4 of the way through the story. So lots and lots of marketeers are finding ways to put the impact at the beginning and excite people, give them a snippet of what they're going to see, and then pull it through to try and ensure that they're going to come on in. So can you find ways that will immediately engage your target audience and intrigue them enough so they're going to want to carry on? It means you've got to encapsulate all those branding issues and all the knowledge of that target audience with what you're going to say in those first few seconds or those first few words. A real key point to this is to focus on that user. What's in it for me? What does that user want to hear? It's not about what I want to say to you. It's what they are going to latch onto. Okay. So when you're trying to work out what's important to the people in your pen point, they might have some pain points. They might be bored and want something to relieve that boredom. They might have something that's broken that they need to fix. So if you can address their pain with a great solution, you have a go chance to getting them hooked. There might be people with motivators. I quite like what I've got, but I'm looking for something more interesting. I want to learn something new. I want to win something. I want to spend my time in a constructive way. I want to give to a good cause. Whatever it is, whatever those people are interested in, what's going to hook them about what you have to say. Okay? So think about that user. What's important to them? What's in it for them? And a key thing there, again, this comes right back to, in the past, when the people who've created a business or created a product or a service, what they want to do is list all the great things about it and tell the world. They're the features, all right? But I want you to flip it around and focus instead on the benefit to the user. So we might have designed this amazing gadget watch that's waterproof to so many meters, that's so thick, it comes in different colors, and it's a spherical interface. This is what we've designed and we're super excited about it. I start using all those words at my audience and they just go, so what? The so what test is a great one. If you write any piece of content, ask yourself, so what? Flip it on its head. The benefit of this watch being waterproof up to 5 meters is you can take it swimming. So all those wild swimmers out there who want to track their distance and the temperature and whatever else this wonderful watch can do, you can take it swimming and get all those stats. And guess what? It's smash resistant because we've designed it with this thick glass. But that doesn't matter. It means it's smash resistant. You can choose colors that suit your personality. It's got comfort, it's got style. You're going to look good, you're going to feel great, you're going to be able to live your life. And this watch is going to enhance it. All right? So think about using those benefits and features instead of just, using those benefits instead of just listing features. Okay, here we've got a great examples or 3 great examples of the sorts of things people who've done this. They've flipped it around. Boost your CV with a free. If I'm looking for work, if I'm looking, if I'm the right target audience, I might go on and read that there's a digital marketing course. If I'm not interested in improving my work prospects, I'm going to scroll on by. Get product and engineering on the same page with product roadmap software. We flipped this, so we're talking about the problem, what's in it for them. It's a very specific problem. Most people are going to scroll on by, but that engineer who's struggling with the product team, that's going to jump out at them as a perfect solution. And that's really important. Most people are going to scroll past. But if you get this right, then it will jump out of the page, jump out of the screen at those right people. Get a free coffee roasting kit. Okay, you had me there. Now we're talking my language. Free coffee, brilliant, I'm there. When you try 3 bags of our roasting coffee, okay, I might give that a go, because that jumps out at me as that offer. If you'd have said to me, flipped it around and said, buy 3 bags of roasting coffee, I would have said no. But, oh, there's something in it for me, okay? Wherever as possible, remembering you are communicating for understanding, so don't overcomplicate what you say. Fewer words, the right words, well-chosen, simple language. Okay, so make it reader-friendly, make it clear, use everyday words. It says here, don't use complicated language, technical terms, jargon, acronyms. The only time that it's okay to use that is if that language is clear to the person you're trying to reach. If I were trying to reach PhD candidates, then actually, if I tried to use clear and simple language, I'd be over-explaining and using too many words, because they are complex. It's complex what I'm trying to communicate. Complexity is about if you can encapsulate it in the most simple way possible. All right. Try not to use flowery language. And how I do it is I write it, I leave it, I come back, and then I cross out all the times when I've crafted beautiful sentences that actually aren't really communicating my point. Bullet points are great here. What is the actual point? And also with social media, don't try to convey everything in the first message. This is a conversation. Grab them in with something and then follow up with more points. All right, so structure your message logically. Bullet points are great. Subheadings, headings, leaving space for the content to breathe is really important. Okay, so in terms of how do you cut your copy but keep the same meaning, think about it. As I say, write stuff out and come back and really think, okay, am I hammering that point home in a way that is true to my brand and is going to reach that audience that I need? I want to touch very quickly on complaints, because whenever we open ourselves up to the audience, to the world, there's a potential that what we do doesn't resonate with somebody. All right, so people do get worried about customer complaining on social media. First thing to notice is, honestly, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It could happen whether you are active on social media or not, which means that's the world we live in. We can't change that. So why not be there? Why not be active? Why not be able to be involved? All right. So when you are dealing with customer complaints, you want to think about being polite, being professional, getting to the point and providing answers, because not only are you responding to the person who made that initial complaint, you're actually responding to everybody who might see that in the future. All right. So avoid being passive. Don't be just wishy-washy and woolly with what you're saying. Use an active voice that's clear, concise, and to the point, even more so than with your general social media posts. It might be that if you have a really fun, jokey, friendly tone of voice, you actually switch up your tone of voice when you're dealing with a complaint. All right, so be precise. Think about how you can fix the problem. Identify the problem, fix it. Don't empathize with them. Don't say stuff you don't mean, and don't say things you can't deliver on. Right back to what we can do. You know, I'm not going to use a helicopter to fly you the broken part that was there. I'm just setting myself up for a second failure, for more disappointed expectations. Okay. And yeah, being jokey has a time and place. Some wonderful content has been created by people who have taken a complaint. I visited a concert venue and I found the band was too loud. It was too noisy. Well, what did you expect? Yeah, it's a loud band. It's what they did. You know, I literally chose the hotel I went to because people were complaining that there were no golf carts down to the beach. And I was like, well, I don't want a place. I want to be out in nature. I want to be walking. I don't want to be, you know, run over all the time by golf carts ferrying people who can't be bothered to walk. That's a great thing. It was somebody else's complaint is my thing that I'm really looking for? So you can come back with slightly tongue-in-cheek if something's a little bit comical. I've seen people use those great content when their customers have then rushed to their defense. If it's something to do with money, if it's anything to do with a serious or safety issue or what have you, then definitely, no matter what your tone of voice says, you want to switch to a kind of, in case of emergency, break glass and have a procedure that you follow to make it that you are responding appropriately. Always sign off with a name. It takes it from being, I'm shouting at the world and the big scary company, to, oh, actually, I'm talking to Christine who's trying to help me. Really helps to personalize and diffuse the situation. Okay, so here we are. Here's one. Look, you can imagine, can't you? They're getting very, very cross with their typing. Look, I ordered a mobile from your company last week. When I arrived, it was damaged. Called to complain, I was rudely told you don't accept returns and I need to contact the delivery company myself. Is this how you treat loyal customers? I will never buy from you again. Hopeless. This is open to the world, so it has to be dealt with. All right. This could look bad for your company because other people might think, well, this is how we behave. So our response is super important. The first thing we do is respond publicly. Friendly, polite, professional. Hello, sincere apologies. We are apologizing for inconvenience caused and the poor customer services you received. We've identified what the problem is and we have told them, that we hear what they say, that we have identified that, and that it fell below our usually high standards. Everybody else listening, this isn't who we are, and this isn't what we do. We do value you. We're going to launch an investigation. This is what actively we are going to do to why our team provided misinformation, because actually we do fix these problems. So this was our mistake. We've apologized. We're going to fix it. Okay. But then we're saying, right, contact me on the direct email to organize. So we're now taking it offline. We don't want this to stay in the public eye. We want it to go and be sorted behind closed doors. All right. And we're going to fix it. And we've signed off with our name. Now, Hannah, lovely Hannah at the company, is going to fix this for me. It diffuses the situation right down. And actually, anybody else realize, courier companies break things all the time. But this company is fixing that for the customer. All right. Let's jump in and just see what we've got going on. Interesting. So, Yogesh, how can I target my audience to particular things or points during my social media posts or videos? Do I need to directly target them as another way? When you're building out your audience, today's session is all about writing content that is going to be of interest and use for them. If you join us for our social media strategy webinar, we talk a bit more about the ways you target. It might be that a lot of social media nowadays you have to boost to get seen, so pay to play on various platforms. We talk about all of that. It could be, responding to particular things, talking in particular hashtags, talking about trending topics, choosing the topics wisely. Lots of ways you can do. Join us for social media strategy where we go into that a little bit deeper. Is probably going to be the best way. Do loads of research. See what other people are saying, see what else is going on, what's trending, what's relevant, social media days and all sorts. But as I say, social media strategies, the where we take this out to the audience, really. Okay, so just a few little things for you for content marketing when you're thinking about it. First things first, we actually mentioned it when we were talking about Hathaway and their ideal user, their pen portrait. One of the things she said, bit of a grammar nerd. Lots of people you lose if you use the wrong there, and there. You start to. It's not just spelling mistakes. Grammar errors can really detract from your message, especially if you're trying to be professional. But one thing we're doing, if we're just typing really quickly on our thumbs, I would always, if you can, prepare your content in advance. All right, give yourself the time to reread it. Try to step away from having those errors. You can then be thinking about a tool like Grammarly, which checks all your writing for your grammar mistakes. If you're writing it in most anywhere you're writing, little artificial intelligence is working ahead and putting under little underlines if it thinks it sounds a little bit weird. So you can add tools like Grammarly, you can add these extensions, you can use the different apps. The most important thing, I think, is to give yourself time. And if you're not somebody who has the best grammar in the world, not all of us do, then having somebody else who knows you in a business, quite often it's good to have a checking process, where somebody else reads it over for you. Somebody who's a good proofreader, somebody who understands what you're saying, then it's a great way to just make sure that you are saying what you actually think you're saying. Spelling mistakes, not all spell checkers on their own won't pick up a lot of the grammar errors, okay? And make sure, especially when you start cutting down sentences, that they still do actually make grammatical sense. And then there's the visuals. As we are scrolling through, it's the visuals that are going to grab our attention. Pretty much every single platform nowadays requires those great visuals. Okay, so take good photos in the first place. Take original images. Don't just take stock images. But then, edit them down. Focus in on the particular point you're trying to make. Brighten it with particular filters. Tools like ViscoCam, photo editing apps with lots of preset filters. You could start to, when you're creating your brand, it's not just the words you use, it is the imagery. You're always going to have a set filter. You're always going to have that consistent template. Where's your logo going to go? How are people going to look at that image? And once they get to know you, know that that post is from you. We build familiarity through consistency. Lots of people now using Canva. Canva's a phenomenal tool. It's what we call freemium. It starts free and then there are premium features. Get used to it using the free version and then decide if there's anything in the premium version you need to pay for. Content banks are in there. You might decide, well, to get a particular template, then there is a charge for it. So that's the sort of thing. What that does is it gives you the templates for the different sizes and shapes of the different platforms. Try and resize your images, which it will help you do to make sure that they are right for all the different platforms that you're using. You can then create your own templates that make this easier going into the future. Lots of different formats and sizes and styles. And don't forget that this does not end with your social media. This could be your leaflets, your brochures, your website, the letters that you print and send, the way that you pull together, any of your literature that's your pre-sales, your thank you emails after somebody has completed a sale. It's not just on social media. This should spread out into the rest of your work. So lots of those apps out there to help you. We normally probably want to touch at this point about, there's a lot of AI generation going on at the minute. Why do I need to take my own pictures? I can just generate them. And yes, that is available, but I still think that good pictures, good photographs of real life stuff are going to showcase you, your personality, maybe a lot better than a generated image, because all of the generated images are all generating from kind of the same sorts of place. So all your competitors can generate from the same place. To stand out and be a bit different, maybe those original pictures are going to do that a lot better. So think about how those images tell your story in that consistent way. Think about it for your brand, the kind of imagery that's going to sum up who are you. Okay, so the other thing is when we're talking about, content generation, we don't all have beautiful cakes that we make and lots of creation of stuff that we do all the time. Maybe taking that camera out with you and creating content on the go, going live, tailing videos, being real and authentic, going behind the scenes of your business, introducing those personalities, thinking about creating content on the go, thinking about every day, is there something that's worthy of taking that photo that could go into my image bank that becomes one of my images later on? So, out and about every day, I want everybody in your organization to be thinking about content creation. Think about that would be a great photo. I'm going to snap it now and send it to the right person. Okay, brilliant. All right then, fantastic. We've nearly come to the end of our session together. Rishba, I'm not sure exactly. So how does UX design personas help in understanding a brand's target audience or on social media? Okay, so you can jump in and make a start. So all of this brand work, your brand does not have a persona out there that's waiting for you. It's an ongoing learning process. You're going to have to put some assumptions out there and check them as you go. So there isn't a right and wrong answer. Monitor it, try something, test it, try it, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. Don't try and think that by writing all this in a notebook and filing it away, that your marketing is suddenly going to improve. It's an ongoing learning process. It's an iterative process. All right. Brilliant. I hope that helps. So next steps wise, let Daryl know in the chat if there's something you're going to do differently as a consequence of today. One of those things might be to join us for more broadcasts. We're really ramping up through September. So we've got new content coming online. It might be to spend some time with Wenta, see what those dudes are up to. Might be to book in for one of our free one-to-one marketing, one-to-one mentoring sessions. If you are based here in the UK, working for a small business or a charity, head to g.co/UK mentoring. Otherwise, thank you so much. I hope it's been a useful dive into writing for social media for you today. Got to wrap up here as we are out of time, but do please come back and check out our Google Digital Garage broadcasts in different subjects. You can click through to the link on the website and it will show you what else is coming up. Thank you for joining today. I look forward to welcoming you again to another Google Digital Garage training session sometime soon.